Hello and thank you for joining me today. It's part 2 of the mini business startup series of Creative SheCEO, How to Launch a Creative Business. I really hope that you are enjoying the series so far. There's been one episode on, this is episode number 2, and I hope that you're finding it useful and it's giving you some insights and tips and tricks to use with your business to help move it forward. So today's episode, we're talking money, and it's a topic that always seems to be a tricky one to talk about. So we're going to be looking at why this is and how we can make sure that we're comfortable talking about money to our customers and potential clients. Because if we're not, it's going to show. And not only do you risk appearing unsure of your value and the worth of your product or service, you're also going to make the people you're hoping to invest in nervous and unsure too. So you need to be confident in your prices and you need to communicate them clearly and effectively so that potential customers feel safe in parting with their hard-earned cash and they trust in the service that you are delivering. So not only are we looking at all of this, I'm also going to be giving some practical tips on how to price your work, as well as looking at how we deal with pricing nightmares, the discounts, negotiations, friends and family, they are the worst. The one we all dread, dealing with those people that we know and love who, may use the fact that they know you to their advantage, let's face it, when they need a quick birthday gift or something. So we're going to talk about all that and we're going to look at how we handle it and how we navigate those dodgy waters. Before we get started, I just want to remind you of my course workbook that runs alongside these podcasts, which I've been working on for a long time now, a good few weeks. As I mentioned in the last episode, it's an online course called the Creative SheCEO, How to Launch a Creative Business, that I designed myself. It accompanies a series of podcast episodes and it covers everything that we're talking about, but in so much more detail. So there's so much in there that you can use to help move your business forward a bit quicker. So yes, I can offer you advice and I can talk about everything that you can do in these podcast episodes, but there's only so much that I can cover. The rest of it is going to be up to you. And the workbook itself will help you work through these exercises so that you can get some results. That's what we want at the end of the day. We want results. It's full of practical exercises that can help you achieve those results and they just make things happen quicker for you. I've loved creating it, absolutely loved it. It's really pretty as well. Of course it is, because I'm a designer. So I've made it as pretty as I can, and it's got lots of information, exercises, checklists, templates, resources. I've just put loads of stuff into there. And again, it's all stuff that I did and that worked for me to help get my stationery business, Vintage Tree, off the ground. So it's £99. You can buy it on my website. The link to it is in the show notes, or you can visit herhandmadehustle.co.uk. It's under the shop section and it's downloadable, which is great, so that you can work through it at your own pace on your own schedule, because I know everybody's busy. I was trying to toy with the idea of doing some live sessions as well, but I know it's really hard for people to sort of all be together, and you might not be able to access it for commitments that you may have. So I thought the best way to do it was actually have it in a booklet that you can download and learn and do it on the go at your pace, on your schedule. I always have problems spending money on myself. Last year I decided I was going to invest in me more, in my dreams and my ambitions. So I bought the software to design these courses, and I've spent every waking hour working on all the materials and all the content to put in it. So I look at it this way. I think, for me, it's an investment for my business of what I want to do to get out there to the world to help more people. So if you're like me and you're toying with the idea of spending a little bit of money on yourself, then trust me, it's worth it. I really hope that for the people that do purchase it, that you really do get the best out of it and it helps you get your business up and running as quick as possible. So it's there, ready for you to grab if you need it. Okay, so let's talk money. Okay, for episode 2, it's all about unapologetic pricing. And it's a funny old subject, isn't it, money? Because I don't know if it's just because we're British, we've got a certain reserve about us, it's just that it makes you feel uncomfortable or awkward. But it really is a bit of a taboo subject. Like, no one really likes talking about how much or how little money that they earn, or how much they've spent on something. It's like we feel scared of being judged or something. I don't know what it is. I know when I do the food shopping, You know, if I'm on my own and I come home, my husband asks what I've spent. Mainly because he knows that when I go in to Aldi, I'll just end up in the special buy section and get a load of stuff that we don't need. Who doesn't? You know, it's like a night out for mums when you're alone in a supermarket, isn't it? With freedom to just browse. It's great. You know what I'm saying, if you're a mother. So, yeah, you know, when he asks me the price, I probably knock 10, 15 quid off. When he just casually says, oh, how much does it all come to? And it's just this whole awkwardness surrounding money. And it spills over into our professional life and business, feeling uncomfortable selling our products or our service, and discussing prices for our work and putting them out there. But the reality is, it's not a business unless you're making money and you're getting sales and you're having an income. So we actually need to change our money mindset and stop apologising for what we charge. Because there's nothing wrong with wanting to make money and to have a better lifestyle and to enjoy things in life that we want to do while we're on this planet, you know, which we need money for. I mean, God, I'm going to see the Caribbean before I die if I have to work until I'm 90. Honestly, like that is on my bucket list. I will be going. And we need to stop feeling guilty about taking money from people who are interested in our services and our products and what we can offer them. We forget, you know, people are fully grown adults and they're capable of deciding what to spend their money on. And how they feel is not our responsibility. And that goes for a lot of things in life as well, which I've come to realise over the past year, really, that we're not responsible for how other people feel. And it's an exchange at the end of the day. It's a transaction that they're paying you for a service or something that you are providing that they want. They wouldn't pay it if they didn't want it. And that's what we have to realise. It's not like you're conning them. You know, we often feel like we don't deserve getting paid or paid, you know, what we deserve more like, actually. And we've got to change this, because adjusting our money mindset to one of acceptance and even abundance, just so that you can earn what you want and make a living out of your passion, is the first step in learning how to be confident in what you charge. You know, and I've come to realise that with a lot of my products and stuff, you know, I question all the time, you know, how much is right? What would I pay? What will they pay? I think about it all the time. And there's actually a massive difference between men and women when it comes to selling. You know, we do tend to overthink the prices of things, and we try and look at all these aspects that are affecting, you know, what we think everyone else is going to think about us, basically. So we try and think of a price and then we sell it, but in such a way that it goes around the houses, when actually we should just be doing what men do and say, that's the price, take it or leave it, you know. But with us, well, I know that it doesn't go for all women, but I think the majority of entrepreneurs as well, we tend to beat around the bush a bit, you know. Oh, gosh, will they pay that? Or will they not? Is it too much? Or is it too cheap? Oh, but if you buy it, you'll get this for free. And, you know, if you buy this, then I'll give you 20% off the next order. And, you know, I'll give you my soul as well. Like, what are we doing? This is the price. Take it or leave it. If you don't want it, don't buy it. And that is what we have to think. Like, you have poured your heart and soul into your product or your service. And if someone doesn't recognise that and doesn't want it, then that's fine. Okay, and they won't be your people. And that's what we were talking about in the last episode about your trap. So we have to really change our mindset, okay, and be confident in what we charge. So what else can we do to help us feel more confident and assured when it comes to charging for our work? And this applies for creative businesses and other businesses as well. So let's, you know, look at the strategies that you can implement to help you do this. So first of all, you know, with any business, you have to know and you have to be clear of costs. So if you're clear on what something actually costs you to create, then you're able to work out what you need to charge to make a profit. Now, this obviously applies if you make physical products where you have to buy supplies and materials, etc. You know, and we'll come to working out the time factor next, which will apply if you're creating stuff as well as a service-based business. So we'll be looking at the value of time as well. But for now, we're going to just look at how do you work out the cost if you're creating a physical product. So I'll tell you how I do it as an example, but obviously everyone's different. and so is their line of work. We'll just give you an idea. And again, in the workbook, I've got a fabulous exercise which helps you work out cost, or what to charge basically for a product based on the value of cost and time, which we'll go into later as well. But it's a really good exercise that gets you clear, on what things actually cost, because sometimes we can surprise ourselves. We shouldn't guess and we shouldn't estimate, but we do, and we need to work things out. So yeah, let's say I'm creating a new product and it's a new range of wedding invitations. So I'll start by writing down every single component that makes up the invitation that I need to buy. So in this case, I'd have card, I'd have ribbon, embellishment, ink, the packaging, cello bags, whatever, glue sticks that I use to make them. Then I'll research the cost and I'll write down next to each one what it actually cost me. Now for things like ink, it's hard to work out sort of individual cost per invite. So that I do just estimate, say like how many invites I get out of one cartridge. And the same for card, I'll work out like how many invitations I can get out of one sheet. And then, some things like that are quite easy to work out. So I would say, for example, I don't know, if I get 2 invitations per sheet and the pack of card costs, £5 for 100 sheets, I sort of divide it and work out what my cost is per sheet. So I'll add up all the material costs and then I get myself a total. So that's our materials. And then we have to work out our time. Now, actually, time is a really important step in feeling confident in what we charge, because if we get this wrong, we can massively do ourselves out of a profit as creatives. And costs are really quite black and white and they're easy to establish. But time, it's such a headache for small business owners, because everything you offer probably takes a different amount of time to do. And it's really hard to sort of work out how you want to do it. So, you can do it in a couple of ways. You can look at maybe each individual product, if you haven't got loads and loads and loads, work out how long it takes you to create them. It isn't too bad, like I say, if you've got a few products, or maybe they all got a similar process. How many can you make in an hour? Or you can think about like what you want to get paid per hour. So I think the minimum wage now, you've got to look at it like this. Okay, the minimum wage is like £10.42, I think, per hour at the moment for over 23-year-olds. And I think that's going up to £11.44 per hour in April. So for me, for my product-based business, for the stationery, I don't really want to get paid less than £20 an hour, £25 ideally, because I know how much time it takes me and effort to create these things. And we're self-employed at the end of the day, so we can set our own wages. That is the point. We can earn as much or as little as we want. And we should be aiming for more, because otherwise what's the point? That's my opinion anyway. And I know, like, how long something takes you. So it's really important to factor in the cost of your time. So back to the invitation example, let's say they cost me £150 to make. If I was working out how much time it takes me to make one, it could be like 15 minutes, something like that. So I could effectively make maybe 4 in an hour if I got my skates on. I didn't get distracted with YouTube or Googling stuff when I should be getting my head down, because we all do that, don't we? I'm literally in the middle of making someone's really important wedding invitations, and then I'll go, I just need to find out how to do that on YouTube, and then I'll just Google it, completely unrelated to work, and then I'll just end up start watching a load of videos, and I should be working. So sometimes it takes me 4, it can take me an hour to do 4, sometimes I can do 1 an hour, depending on if I get distracted or not. So yeah, so then I work out basically how many I can make within the hour. I actually sometimes set the stopwatch on my phone to see how long it takes me to make a product. So it's a good idea. You can do this as well if you want to do like a trial, just to see how long it takes you. So let's say I do 4 in an hour. I'm going to get a bit mathematical here. Again, it's all in my workbook. It's easier for me to write it all down than it is to say it on a podcast episode. So it is in the workbook, this formula, but I'll mention it anyway, see if you can understand it as I go along. So 4 in an hour, and let's say I want to get paid £20 an hour at least. So I do £20 per hour divided by 4, that works out £5 per invite for my time. But then I have to minus off the cost of the invite. So I've worked out, say the cost was £150, so that leaves me £3.50 for me profit per invite. So that just times that by the 4 again in 1 hour, and it works out at £14 an hour, which is lower than I want to get paid. So I might just adjust this a little bit if I feel it's too low and put the invites up to maybe £6. So I use my discretion a lot of the time, and my experience, because, you know, I've been in business 14 years now. I know roughly how long something will take to make. But I think setting yourself an hourly rate and dividing it by how many of that product that you can make in the hour and taking off the cost of the materials, what you're left with is the cost of your time. So it might seem a bit confusing. It's all detailed in my workbook, like I say, because it's much easier written out, and it's got some working examples for you as well. But definitely think about what you want to get at the end of it all. So after all the costs have been taken off, time and materials, what do you want to get paid? You know, and you should be aiming between £15 to £25 an hour minimum, I feel, as a creative in self-employed world. If you can go for more, fabulous, depending on what it is that you offer. If you're a service-based business, you're probably going to be able to charge a lot more as well. But think about how long something takes you. Don't leave yourself short, because that is the biggest mistake. I've done it so many times. I'm still making mistakes now. It happens, but you learn. So another way that we can increase our confidence in what we charge is by communicating the value of creative work to customers, because people don't realise the process involved. And we need to educate them, not just to justify our prices, but to show them the value of handmade. Because I think if people knew that, and we knew the people we were pitching to understood, then we would feel more confident in communicating our prices. So how can we do this? So I think the best way to do this is to actually show them the process involved in creating your product. So, you know, you could make a reel for social media, you could take behind the scenes footage, show things as you do them, the steps involved and the time it takes. Also, I know when I provide a quote to brides or people in general, I normally break the quote down in my email. So it says, you know, this is what I have to do in terms of, obviously I don't go into all the detail, but I will say everything that it includes. I've got my time, these materials, list it all out. And then they look at it and be like, wow, that actually is a lot of work. And the price per invite, £5.50, £6, whatever, it's not too bad at all. You tend to find that they accept it a lot easier. So yeah, I think it's important to share your struggles and your frustrations as well, especially people are nosy, you know, they love to know how things are done and what challenges you have to deal with. So do a story on Instagram, anything really, to communicate the work involved. If you're a service-based business and you don't physically create anything, talk to them about your knowledge and your expertise and share bits of information to show yourself as an expert in what you do. If people like to know this kind of stuff, it gives them confidence in you and your business, and it visually communicates value to your potential customer, because they've got no clue what your processes are. You know, I remember about probably in 2013, 2014 maybe, and it was the height of success of Vintage Tree. You know, me and my mum would just run off our feet. So my mum used to pack everything for me, and I made it all. So I was making everything coming in from the various platforms that I'm on. So it was not on the high street, there was Etsy, there was my website, there was obviously social media sales as well. And mum was packing it all to go out. It was just absolute carnage. You know, we were in this tiny flat that I'd just moved into, in a small bedroom, surrounded by, you know, boxes and packing tape. You know, sometimes it was 60 orders a day during wedding season. It was a lot for one person to make and one person to pack. Anyway, I remember her turning to me one day when we were just immersed in all the chaos, and I had like smoke coming off my glue gun, and she just looked at me and she said, you know, Joanne, no one truly knows how hard you work except for me. And I remember feeling so seen and so acknowledged in that moment. And mainly because I knew that my mum was the only one who witnessed everything I did, and she saw the process involved. But also because to hear that from my mum made me proud, and because it wasn't what I expected to do in my life, because, you know, I basically was going to be a psychologist, and that was what I thought my path was, having studied it. And I'd taken a totally different turn, but I was happy. And I think that was the moment, excuse me, that she recognised that as well, that I was happy. And she saw firsthand that I just poured everything into what I did. And I'll always hold that moment with me, because I feel like it was so significant that someone actually recognised that. And that's what we need to show our customers and everybody who may be potentially buying from us, because they won't know otherwise. So don't be afraid to share the processes with them. So one thing that I really wanted to talk about on today's episode was dealing with price wars. Okay, so, you're finally feeling confident in your prices, you're ready to communicate them in a quote to a potential customer maybe. And I want to look at how do you deal with it when someone pushes back against the price that you've quoted? How do you handle negotiations? How do you navigate the dodgy waters of friends and family discounts? We all get them. I've got loads to say about this, and most of it is in the online course as well, where you'll find some example scenarios and things people may say to you, along with some like templates and answers that you can use to help you handle these kind of situations gracefully, because I know they get your back up, especially if it's like a stranger that they come to you, they ask for your product, you give them a price, and they come back and they go, oh gosh, that's too expensive. It's insulting. It feels insulting. So in my workbook, I have some examples of replies that you can send to people, depending on the situation, that will help you handle it in a way that you won't boil over, because I know the feeling, trust me. So let's talk about it briefly today too. So you're going to get them, okay? You're going to get people challenging your prices when you tell them how much something is. Again, whether you're product-based or you're service-based. You have to remember that their response is not your issue, okay? So if you lose a sale, you lose a sale. So what, okay? So it doesn't matter if your quote, merely made them choke on the biscuit. It doesn't matter. That's your price. And that's how you deal with it, I should say, depends on a couple of things, really. How badly do you want to work with them? So, is it going to be worth it? Will it be stressful? Are they your ideal client in the first place? And how likely is it that they will be a returning customer? Do you think that they are your target audience and they will shout about you from the rooftops, and if you want to work with them? You get to choose who you work with, and we have to remember that. You don't actually need to work with everybody, and you don't have to work with people you don't want to, even if you want the money. So it's a bit of a balance between sort of using your judgment and assessing the benefits and the drawbacks. Now, I've taken a recent example of a client that I've had. It's been a particularly difficult customer, just lots of stuff going on in their wedding, lots of back and forward. I think I put myself in a bad mood about it from the beginning because I underquoted by accident, just a bit of brain fog, made a mistake, and I undercharged by about £60. So that annoyed me. And then it basically incurred loads more work. But obviously I'd already committed at this stage, so did the order. It's beautiful, all done. However, this person does want me to do the rest of their wedding as well. So I know that it's going to turn into a bigger order for me. So yes, it was stressful, lots of back and forward, but I also know that, I'm going to be getting a decent order out of this as well in a few weeks' time. So I'm choosing to work with that customer at the moment. But, in the whole, I've been lucky enough to really only have to turn down a handful of people. And I've managed to make it work with most, to be fair. And there's sort of 3 types of customers that we look at in my online course, and how to handle each one. So we've got the bargain hunters. We all know those. We've got the customers that have got long-term potential. And then we've also got the friends and family, the serial offenders of asking for discounts, I tend to find that I don't end up working with the bargain hunters because my products aren't a budget range. They're not like ridiculously priced by any means. They're sort of like mid-range, but I can't compare to Shein or eBay or anywhere like that. And I don't do discounts for friends and family unless it's my sister. She always gets freebies, of course, or my best friends, not a problem, because we all do things for each other and that's fine. But not just for anyone that knows me. So I focus a lot of my energies on the long-term potential clients, and have a different approach for these if they come to me asking to negotiate price, because like the one I mentioned just now, that she actually didn't ask for a discount, but I also knew that she wanted more wedding stuff. So had she had done, I may have been flexible, but obviously not by much. It's hard when you make things by hand, isn't it? Plus I'd already made that mistake on the pricing, so I didn't really have much wriggle room there. So you've got to look at sort of a different approach for those sorts of people if they come to you asking to negotiate price. So you've usually got a motivation to offer some flexibility, if they're going to be a returning customer. So if they're going to order more off you or tell friends and family, get you more sales in. So regardless of the type of person who you're dealing with, let's be honest, it's probably instantly going to get you back up if they open the conversation asking for a discount. It just is. It feels insulting, like I said. But I think we have to try not to feel insulted or annoyed, but instead see the bigger picture and try to establish if it's going to be of any long-term benefit to you and your business, if you can be a little bit flexible, but only if you can be. If you can't, you don't be afraid to say no. I do it loads and I lose orders, but it's orders I don't actually want or they aren't worth it to me. Rejections, if people come back to you and say you're too expensive, we'll take them on the chin because they're not your ideal customer. So they either don't value what you do or they can't afford it, which is fine. Move on. I've had one on Facebook the other week. I quoted her and she dropped off the face of the earth, like they all do. They just disappear into the abyss, don't they, when you give them a price. But the best thing that you can do to avoid wasting time and going back and forward with emails, etc., is to tell them your prices at the get-go, right at the beginning. So in the first correspondence that you send each other, even if you don't know the exact price for what they're asking, you can say something like, prices start from. And that way you'll weed out the ones who will waste your time. You'll save yourself hours of emails and messages, only to be told, they can't afford it at the end of the day and they want a discount. And I think transparency is the key with this, honing in on who you want to work with and who wants to work with you as well. So don't be afraid to be transparent and say to them, this is what I charge. It may vary slightly depending on what you're ordering, but their prices start from this. And you'll soon know. They'll either reply to you or they won't. And if they don't, then you've saved yourself hours of back and forth, trust me. So that's one piece of advice I definitely think you should roll with. It's so important. And I also today want to talk about boundaries when it comes to money. So one way to feel confident in all money-related matters with your business is to establish some clear ground rules on what your customer can expect in regards to pricing and what you expect from them. I've got a useful exercise in my course which goes through the different pricing boundaries that you can set. And actually at the end of it, you come out with a terms and conditions document to put on your website or wherever you want. It's like a payment policy. So it's really helpful. So it's not just an exercise. You'll get something at the end of it that you can put on your website and feel confident to direct people to if they have any money questions. It's really good. But basically, you just need to figure out a comprehensive list of your payment policies. And that can include your payment methods, the structure, your policies on late fees, refunds, cancellations, all the things that you want to make clear to anyone entering into a transaction with you. It doesn't have to be complicated. My workbook explains that. So if you're unsure, I recommend it's really worth it, even just for that, because all these things, if you can communicate them clearly to people, then you won't have to have those awkward conversations. So, one, they know where they stand. And two, you're also covered in case of any problems or issues, associated with payment or their order. Like, for example, one of my payment policies, I don't refund for bespoke items. If they're not happy, on the rare occasion, I'll aim to put it right. But, there's no money back because I've personalised it. That was the deal. If they're not happy with something, like I say, I'll ask them why, see if I can change it, but I cannot offer their money back. I've also got like a 3 revision rule to my wedding invitations. They can make up to like 3 changes, and after this there's a charge, because you do get a lot of people back and forward. Can you just change this? Can you just change that? Drives you mental. So that's another one of my payment policies. And then I also have another policy, which is when I give a quote, I make sure that I really communicate it clearly in an email and in my payment policies that quotes are only valid for like 30 days. Otherwise you can get someone coming back to you that you quoted in 2010, and asking you to honour the price, which obviously is completely ridiculous. But it hasn't happened yet, but it could happen. You say, well, that's what you quoted me. It's on paper, it's in black and white. That's what you've got to charge me. But you get what I mean. So once you've got all this information laid out in one place for them to see and them to read, you'll just feel much more confident entering into a transaction with that person. You put it all together in a document and title it your terms and conditions or your payment policies. Have it on your website, and then you can send the link with all of your quotes, or attach it to the email, and that way you're being totally transparent. And the final thought I wanted to just share with you was that I've always found that the less fuss that I make about a quote, the more simple it is, the less faffing around and the more straight to the point I am, the more likely I am to get the sale. There's just something about this directness that seems to promote confidence, I think. And I know that sometimes if I'm in a rush or I'm so busy that I can't quite put the time that I would normally put into an email to somebody, normally I like to speak to somebody, I'm quite friendly, ask a few questions and a bit back and forth, but I don't always get the sale. And I found that by actually just being really direct and quite quick to saying, oh, hi, yeah, these are priced at, thanks for your inquiry, these are priced at $4.95 each. The quote for 70 is this, this, and this. And this is postage and packaging. This is the total. If you want to go ahead, let me know. And if I put that all in the first email, I tend to find that I get the order. And it's really strange because you think the other way around would work. And sometimes it does. Sometimes people need a bit of seduction. They like to talk to you first and kind of understand you and get nurtured. But other people just want a price. They're not emailing you for a chat. They just want to know, what do you charge to do the job? And I have found that it does work. It's going back to what I said earlier, I think, about the difference between men and women, isn't it, when it comes to selling? So I would recommend trying it. Try being direct and giving your price first and foremost for anything else. No back and forward. See what happens. If you lose it, you lose it. You'll lose it anyway if they're not interested because it's too high. So be direct. I think that's really important. So what are the main takeaways of today's episode? So, number one, we need to work on changing our money mindset and not feel guilty about wanting to make a profit. It's a rite of passage. You need to make money to survive. If you had a salaried job, nobody would question it. So you need to make money. Do not feel guilty about that. And don't feel responsible for another person's reaction or how they feel about your pricing, okay? They are adults. They're fully capable of deciding what to spend their money on. And hopefully it's on your product or service that meets their needs. Number two, be clear of your costs. So if you make a physical product, particularly, this is important, don't estimate. Don't be tempted to estimate. Work out all your costs, write them down, all the materials per product, and put a price next to it so you know exactly what something costs to make. Number three, you need to be clear on what you want to get paid because it'll help you put an actual value on your time. And if it's not where you want it to be when you've worked it out, then just adjust it. You've got that power. It's your business. You're the one who's running the show. Number four, we need to communicate the value of Handmade to potential clients. And you can do this by detailing the steps involved in whatever it is that you're doing for them, whatever job you're doing, whatever you're making. Tell them about the process and share it with them in the quotes that you provide on social media, real stories, posts, whatever. Okay? It's not a justification of your price. It's an education of why it actually costs you that. And number five, make sure you have established some clear pricing boundaries. You need to be clear and transparent because it'll help you navigate these awkward moments when it comes to money, because it comes up all the time. That's one of the hardest things I think about being self-employed, is talking about money. But if you've got it all laid out in your payment terms and conditions, you'll feel much more confident when it comes to knowing what to charge. And as I mentioned before, it's especially important to try and communicate the costs on the first correspondence. So you're preventing time wasters and you're saving yourself hours and hours and hours of headaches and disappointment. So that's really important. So that concludes today's podcast episode on unapologetic pricing. I hope it's helped you feel a little bit more confident in what to charge for your product or your service, helping you feel like you've got that power to determine it. You're not in charge of other people's reactions. So it's your business. You can do whatever you want and you can make whatever you want when it comes to money. So I really hope it's giving you that boost that you need to feel like you can actually make a profit and make a living from whatever it is that you're doing. Now, coming up next week, we have got Picking Your Platform. That is all about where to sell, where can you actually sell your product or service. So we're going to be looking at online marketplaces as well as like e-commerce stores on your own website, looking at pros and cons. We're going to be just really looking at different ways that you can get yourself out there and the advantages and disadvantages of each. We'll be looking at things like the fees associated with online sales platform, give you some advice really on, creating fantastic product listings, get yourself noticed. And it'll touch a little bit as well on the importance of customer feedback in relation to the success of your sales platform. So there's loads to talk about next week. It's going to be a really good one, especially if you're at the stage now where you're ready to get your stuff online, or perhaps it's online and it's not quite working for you, so you might want to switch it up a little bit. So definitely tune in next Wednesday for Picking Your Platform. Again, there's a module that runs alongside that in my course as well. So today's Unapologetic Pricing one is the second module in the workbook, and that is available on herhandmadehustle.co.uk under the shop section, and also there's a link in the show notes to it. It's £99, but I guarantee you are going to get so much from it. It's just full of everything that I know and that I can possibly relay to you if you're at the stage that I was at, a few years ago, starting and growing your business. So I highly recommend it if that's where you're up to. Thank you for listening. I've really enjoyed recording today's episode, and I look forward to next week's Picking Your Platform. See you then. Bye.